I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is my lowest average rated books according to the Goodreads ratings. And so I sorted these. I have this in two parts. First are my actual lowest rated books that I have read, and then I also have low rated books that I actively disagree with. So I've got two parts. First one is Office Hours, which is a student and professor story by Isla, Chiu. This has a average rating of 2.95, and I gave this book 2 stars. This is a over-the-top alpha novella author similar to Jessica Cain, but is a Asian author, and the reason why I haven't read a ton of her novellas is because they are not available in Kindle Unlimited. You have to buy all of them, and they're not that great, and they're very short, like 25 pages. So for me to spend a couple dollars on each one, like, it's not worth it to read a ton of them. It's just not. However, I do kind of find her writing like a good palate cleanser. I enjoy reading it for that brief period of time, even when I don't really love the book all that much. This one, I remember the professor was like blackmailing her for sex with a grade, and it was so bad in the sense that you could not get on board with the relationship, because what was happening is actual abuse that happens on a consistent basis. You know, like, it was too lifelike to be an escape fantasy, because it was like, no, scumbags do this all the time. This is not romantic. So that didn't work for me. Next, I have Headless by Aveda. This has an average rating of 3.20, and I gave this book 4 stars. I would argue that a 3 stars a pretty fair rating for this book. It's definitely my least favorite of Aveda's works that I've read. Is a short Sleepy Hollow retelling, and it's a polyamorous thing, but they aren't really together, and yeah, it was okay. I won't argue with this rating. I don't think it's their best work. Then I have Meet Cute Club by Harbon. This has a average rating of 3.28, and I gave this 2 stars. This is a male-male romance, and it is a romance lover who like works in the bookstore and has a book club, and then this guy who kind of makes fun of him a little bit. And my big beef with this was that our main character, his entire personality was being a romance reader. Like, there was no depth there whatsoever. He goes out on like he's with this guy for like a month or two, and he breaks up with him, and he's like, that's it, I'm getting rid of all my romance books. This is stupid. Why would I even believe in love? And just gets rid of everything that was his entire personality over a 2-month relationship. And I just could not get on board at all. I didn't think the characters were very good. I thought the conflict was stupid and dramatic, and I really thought it was super annoying that literally the only personality we had, we gave up over our boyfriend breaking up with us. Make it make sense. You're an adult. And then lastly for this section, I have Extra Extra by Chris Stevens, and this has an average rating of 3.31, and I give it 2 stars. This is a black love book where there's a newspaper editor, and he has like a romance with his new neighbor who is running from an abusive ex. And I had a lot of issues with it. It's like, it's short, and that's the only reason why I finished it. It was not good. It was not good. There really was an amateur level to the writing, and it wasn't good. Then here are the ones I actively disagree with. First of all is Queen, which is Bloodline Vampires #3 by Katee Robert. This has an average rating of 3.53, and I gave this 5 stars. Now, I can understand people's disappointment in this final book of the trilogy. Katee didn't want to be writing it. She had to finish it up, and she was clearly not a passion project at that point. And she has talked about how she will not do any more series about the same characters like that, it's clearly not for her, or she gets tired of it and she doesn't want to do it, which is also incredibly valid. However, I think that while I wouldn't say that this is necessarily, it's not a bang of a finale, and it's not really a letdown either. She tied everything up in a neat bow. I liked what she did with it. I didn't have any issues. I knew that people were kind of disappointed with it, so I think that did help my expectations, and I thought that was perfectly fine. For me, I don't need my series finale to be like the most stressful, high stakes showdown type thing, because I don't like being stressed. So if you wrap everything up really neatly, that does not bother me. I know it bothers a lot of people because it's kind of a letdown after the build-up, but for me, I'm just like, oh, thank God, we don't have to mess with any of this. We're just doing it nice and easy, and I like that. This is her polyamorous vampire series, and honestly, it's some of my favorite of her work. Then I have The Devil's Bargain by Rian. This has an average rating of 3.57. I give this 5 stars. It's actually incredibly short. I just reread it in June and had not realized just how short it was, or I'd forgotten. It's only like 25 pages. I think that this is great. I think that the writing and the atmosphere is great. You have a nerdy black guy in Philadelphia who's like a middle-aged, nerd who lives in the suburbs with his cat and stuff. And he goes to an auction and he feels compelled to buy this grimoire, and the grimoire summons a demon, and the demon mates and breeds him. I think it's great. I think the whole thing is great. You've got you've got Mpreg, and I just thought it was a really good time. Like, I was very happy with it. I've recommended it a ton of times. Next I have The Naked Duke, which is Naked Nobility #1 by Sally Mackenzie. This has an average rating of 3.61, and again, I give it 5 stars. I can like vividly remember this, and I don't know if it's because it's like the first true historical romance I can remember reading, if that's why it lives so well in my mind, or if I just had that much fun with it. I remember having an absolute blast with this book. Like, I was enjoying myself. It felt light and refreshing and funny, and I was so happy with it. So you have an American heiress or whatever, and she comes over to England, and this duke, his friend said he got him a prostitute. He didn't want a prostitute, so he was going to kick her out of his room, but actually the room was double let, so the woman that's sleeping in the bed is not a prostitute. And they are caught naked in bed together, even though they didn't sleep together. They are caught naked in bed together, and is like, you gotta get married. And he's like, great, perfect, wonderful. And she's like, I'm not marrying you. No, I don't even know you. I'm not marrying you because your aunt is scandalized. Like, get over it. I'm not doing it. And him trying to convince her. It's great. I love it. If you like historical romance that's on the lighter side, I think it's really good. Next I have Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. This has an average rating of 3.62, and again, I gave it 5 stars. This, I feel like, is an amazing consensual, non-consent, paranormal demon romance. It's so good. The entire execution, the entire premise, all of the things I think are so good. There was a ton more world building than I was expecting. There's definitely some content warnings for a break-in, a murder of a family member, PTSD associated with that, trouble sleeping associated with that. But you have a sleep paralysis demon who's doing consensual non-consent with a human, and I just thought it was brilliant. I love this book, and if you're familiar with my channel, you know I really like consensual non-consent in my romances, so this is one of my favorites. And lastly, I have Hot as Hades by Alisha Rai. This has an average rating of 3.65, and I give it 5 stars. This is a novella that is a Hades and Persephone retelling where they are the actual god and goddess, and Persephone is brown, which love that representation. And I just remember hearing that she literally falls into his lap, and I was like, sold. I'm immediately picking this up. And it was such a good steamy retelling with the actual god and goddess, and where you don't have to like completely want to kill Zeus and Demeter. Demeter, is that how you say the mom's name? Like, those characters really annoy me so much that I often struggle to enjoy Hades and Persephone retellings because I hate having to deal with those characters. But in this retelling, those characters weren't god awful, and it was great. I was so happy with it. I loved everything about this. I would argue that this is definitely, I would say, my favorite Hades and Persephone retelling that is the god and goddess rather than just a loosely inspired version. Definitely my favorite. Absolutely amazing. I think if you like this retelling, you would love this one. I don't understand why it doesn't have a higher rating. So yeah, those are the ones, my actual lowest and the ones that I just actively disagree with. Let me know if you've read or want to read any of these. If you agree or disagree with me, go ahead and let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.